how would you evaluate, Colonel, the Russian military's attrition warfare from the failed Ukraine KURSK incursion up the current situation around Pokrovsk?
I think it's very Clausewitzian, and it's very much in adherence of what Putin has been saying about the special military operation in very candid, very straightforward statements. And Sergei Lavrov, in particular, and other Russians too, have been verifying. And that is that my purpose is not to control Ukraine in the sense of taking Kyiv and all of Ukraine. I don't want those bastards in my, having to police them. They're some of the worst partisan guerrillas in the world. They're murderers in many respects. Go back to World War II and World War I and see what Ukraine did. I don't want that. I don't want that. But I want to destroy the Ukrainian military and their ability to make war on me. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it in a very efficient and sound fashion, and watch me do it. That's essentially what's happening. I mean, he's destroying Ukraine's military. Now he's focusing on turning the lights out. I want to see. I said the other day, I want to see if we give them Tomahawk missiles. Do they work the system inside Ukraine with flashlights? Because they're going to have to. Because he's going to put the lights out in Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, living here amongst Russians for almost 4 years. I mean, the people that I guess are part of the information campaign on against Russia online, let's say, they love to say over and over again, oh my gosh, the lines are holding, the lines have barely moved, Russia has gained little territory, look there, Russia's not doing well. But I mean, if you're going to be honest, I mean, the idea is Russia doesn't need more land. It's not about gaining territory. What they're doing is holding their position relatively. They're moving up a little bit where they can, but their goal is to take out the military apparatus of the Ukrainian regime, not to just say, oh, we got some more land. And they certainly don't want to lose Russian soldiers' lives unnecessarily, just to say we took more territory. So,
they're minimizing their casualties and maximizing Ukraine.
Right.
The one thing that's holding back as a military entity in Ukraine, as I understand it, and I have this from pretty good sources, are the people that Putin calls Nazis. And they have refused to go forward to the front lines multiple times now. And they have that control over Zelensky because they don't want to be destroyed. And
really?
there's about 125,000 of these, I'm told. And they were the ones who rushed to Kursk originally, got slaughtered, and so they learned their lesson. They're not going to do that. And he's got them to vie with in terms of his hold on power, because they have the power to bring him down. And that's the element, I think. And I think the Poles are awakening to this, of all people. Recent movement in the Polish structure indicates that the new people there they know they're up against a really warrior caste, but they know that their position vis-a-vis Ukraine and then ultimately vis-a-vis Moscow is untenable. And this recent decision by the EU to allow, without tariffs even, Ukrainian foodstuffs and other products to go into Poland without any tariff at all is going to destroy Poland's farm industry. So they're really angry about that. And Ursula von der Leyen in the EU has been responsible for that. So you've got this situation developing where Zelensky can't get out from under the hands of these Nazis, and that's really what they are, precisely what Putin says they are. And he can't move one way or the other because of the United States, France, Britain, and Berlin. So he's trapped. And I don't know what's going to happen. Someone's going to kill him probably, but I don't know that. But it's an untenable position for him, and all Putin is doing is continuing his pressure. And now the soil has become untenable for really, fast warfare. The mud, they got a term for it in Ukraine. I've forgotten it, but you probably know it. It describes the muddy terrain that the armored vehicles get stuck in. So Russia is going slowly and continuing to do what it wants to do. The latest initiative is turning the lights out, which it's doing forthwith.
Right.
So I expect at the end of the day, he'll turn and he'll take Odessa, and he'll own all the Black Sea ports, the northern ports on the Black Sea. And that tells his Navy now, okay, you're in pretty good position, because now the United States will think twice about coming into the Black Sea, because we own all the ports on the northern rim of the Black Sea, from Sevastopol to Odessa, and there's a port to the east of Sevastopol too. I forget the name of it. But these are the three dominant ports on the Black Sea, and the Russian Navy will have them all. Were I his military, I'd be recommending to him take Ukraine, no matter how many casualties it might cost you. Take Ukraine or take Odessa, and it also cuts off any access to the Black Sea by Ukraine, by Kyiv. So now Kyiv has to depend on either the Europeans to transship its goods, or it has to depend on the Russians through Odessa to transship its goods. So it's got more control over Kyiv. And we're doing this. We're doing all this. We're handing all of this prize to Putin.
Yeah, and if you're a Westerner, you don't know. I mean, Odessa is like a very ancient city, and it it's populated with a lot of people that would consider themselves Russians.
Yes,
and
Odessa it's one of the great criminal capitals of the world. If you've ever read Alan First, Odessa's always in his books, and it's always mafia type people who run it. Look at the president of Georgia, who went from Georgia, where he got kicked out after the Russians took South Ossetia and Abkhazia. And then he got kicked out and he went to Ukraine to be in the Ukrainian government. Then he went down to be mayor of Odessa. And now I understand he's back in Georgia vying for the party we're behind to overthrow the current party. And
it's crazy.
It's crazy. But these people are, it's like, remember Stalin? Stalin came from Georgia. Oh, yeah, right.
Joseph, do you have some Slavic background? Well, I did some research and did a DNA test, and it looks like I am half from Russia, you could say. Looks like Volga German. And I do know that my family line on that side left Russia and came to New York through Ellis Island in 1898. The other half of me apparently is British, from being in America as long ago as Andrew Jackson days. So I don't know if you can count me as Slavic in that regard or not. So what's your background, Colonel? Do you know?
I don't do the DNA bit, but my daughter did, and most of it I think was Scotch-Irish.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah.
So I should say Scotch-Irish. Scotch is a liquid you drink.
Okay, another question here I'll squeeze in. How does one immigrate out of the U.S. and become an expat? Asking for a friend.
You got to find a country to take you. It's becoming increasingly difficult. I actually explored it with New Zealand. Mainly because I love New Zealand and I love fishing there, fly fishing there. And I got told I had to have at least $1 million or more before they would even entertain the idea of having me.
Oh, really? So you were considering New Zealand at one point?
I was actually considering it, yes, before my wife passed away.
Wow.
We were going to move to the North Island, and I know some people there. It's a beautiful place. But I would say right now, you can do it fairly easily with some countries. Just tell them and go. Mexico, for example, although they may have put some more strictures in now. But it's difficult in other countries and growing more difficult every day because no one wants us.
Well, I understand this question is said in a joking way. But I guess if we were to try to answer it seriously, what would you tell a 30-year-old who has one kid and wants to relocate because he's afraid that the U.S. might not be the best place anymore? Would you tell him to stay, or would you make some recommendations?
I tell him the same thing that I advise young men and women in draft age categories, 18 to 24 today. Don't think about going into the military.
Really?
And if a draft comes, go to Mexico, go to Canada.
Really? And it's interesting to hear you say that because you served. So why do you say that? Because
the military is no longer what it is supposed to be. And if it changes its mind in the next year or so about assisting this president in taking over the country, I'll change my mind, but not until then.
Okay.
And the biggest component of recruiting right now that has dropped off for the Army in particular, the most rich ground to plow with regard to recruiting was military families. Now it's poor ground because military families are recommending to their children who are of draft age or conscription or reenlistment age, whatever, don't go in. Both NCOs and officers' families are saying to their children and grandchildren, don't go in the military. It's not the military I served.
Wow. So, and what do you think it needs to become for you to recommend it again?
Well, it needs to go back to a lot of people who, especially its leadership, both enlisted leadership and officer leadership, who think about the Constitution first and themselves second.
Right.
And don't even entertain the idea, for example, of killing people on the high seas with no due process of law. Think about that for a moment. It's just like a policeman walking up to an individual on a street corner selling fentanyl or selling cocaine, pulling out his service revolver and shooting him dead right there on the spot.
Right.
Same thing.
Well, I mean, and I guess my answer to this question, in all seriousness, is I've been living here for almost 4 years with my Russian wife and 5 kids, and my wife is a psychologist by trade, but she had to stop doing that because with my channel here, we were getting too many requests from people that were asking me how they could move to Russia. People that feel like they are Christians that don't have a country anymore, and they wanted to come to Russia because they feel like Russia is that country now. I was just trying to make the videos and make a difference and tell the truth about what this place is. And I couldn't, do that and assist people because that's not my thing. And I didn't have time for it. So she had to stop her career to start doing this. So that is something that she does. And, I have the link in the comments of every video. I know it might sound crazy. It still seems crazy to me, but after living here as long as I have for a few years now, this really does seem like a good place. I wasn't planning on doing a commercial for Russia, but you guys asked, so that's my answer. And guys, if you're new to the channel, if you don't know me, like I said, I'm an American. I was born in 1974. I'm 51 now, and I moved here just because my wife was Russian and she was homesick, and we knew because we vacationed here so much, it was a good place to live. I got here, and then 8 days later, the SMO started, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Was this a mistake? And then the sanctions started, and I sweated about this for a little bit. And because I have a Hollywood background and a little bit of journalism background, I felt called that I could start this channel and do something. And because I was older, it was a bit of a emotional hurdle for me to get over. But I'm glad I did, and I feel like we're making a positive difference, spreading the correct information about what's going on in this world. So that's what we try and do here with some politics, with some fun, with some excitement. We have lots of different videos you guys can check out.
I've watched some of your videos, particularly the ones that walk through the villages in Ukraine that have been struck and that sort of thing. So keep up the good work.
Yeah. That was on the border in Bryansk and in KURSK. I stay on the Russian side, but that was that's probably my best work, I think, just because it shows like the most acute things that are happening in this area right now.
Rolling?
Yes.
Did you like that clip? If so, click here. But if you love that clip, click here and watch the full video. Also remember to like, subscribe, comment, and most importantly, share before I disappear.